Father's Day. Father's Day. This day means so much to me on multiple levels because I had a father and because I am a father. And so there's all kinds of emotions that comes with that. And I got up early this morning to just pray and spend some time with the Lord. And of course, I couldn't help but think about my own dad. And he's been gone for just a few years now. And you know, I was telling Kathy this morning, she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, you know, as weird as it sounds to people, I've never grieved my father's loss the way that I guess culturally you're supposed to grieve a loss like that. Because my dad was such high impact in my life, and it was such a huge loss. But what he left me in my confidence in where he's at right now, and just his joy becoming so full, and he loved God so much, and to enter that immediate presence of God kind of consumed my grief. I'll never lose the stuff that he has poured into my life. It's the power of a dad. The power of a dad. It's just nothing like it. And I love being a dad. And there were many things that I understood about God before coming into this fatherhood thing, that now it's not just information that I academically understand. I now have experiential knowledge in what it means to be a father. So now I understand grace like I've never understood grace. I understand love and I understand mercy. I understand things that used to just be theory and academically in my mind, but now I have experiential knowledge in what it means to love somebody more than you love your own life. That even when my child is a sinner, and she is in one of those days where she's just rebelling, and I know your children don't do it, but our daughter is part animal, and every time it just seems like we tell her to do something, she growls like an animal. Her mommy says, "You're not an animal. Stop growling." And I'm just wondering, is it a Chinese thing? Or because I understand Lily has some animal stuff going on in her too. Thinking, no, it's children. Children are just slightly removed from the animal kingdom. Just slightly removed. I love being a father. And I'm thrilled because so far it seems like my daughter is enjoying me being her father. I received something this year. She just finished 4th grade. One of their first class assignments, it was in their keyboarding training thing where they're learning to use computers and to write stories and just kind of multitasking, that whole thing there. And their assignment was, and they had several weeks to do it, their assignment was to write a story about an interesting person in their life. And I remember hearing Hannah ask my wife about that, and for some reason my wife probably was thinking like me, we would have never considered myself to be a candidate in that. So she's saying, well, you know, Papa was in the army and he did some great things with his life. You know, you might want to write about him. And she's like, okay, and that's all I heard. And we did not have a clue till her assignment was over that she decided that her interesting person she was going to write about was going to be me. I had no idea because, I mean, how many people at that age really consider your parents to be very great at all? I mean, everybody else's parents are awesome. But your parents are just dumber than dirt, man. It's just... And so when she finished her assignment, I ended up receiving a copy of it. Her teacher thought I would be very interested in this. And was I ever? And it'll probably be one of the most valuable documents that I will keep for the rest of my life. And there will probably be days in her teen years that I will have to pull this back out and not just read it for myself, but I will have to set her down and say, I want you to listen to what you wrote here. Nothing has changed. Hannah Catron, her interesting person. Let me tell you about my interesting person. My interesting person is my daddy, Scott Catron. The reason I picked him is because he is my dad. He is a pastor of a church. The way he looks, that's the best part. And then he had his own band. My dad is the best dad I could wish for. Now I'll tell you everything about him. Did you know that one of the reasons I picked my dad is because he is my dad? Deep, huh? He helps me with projects, keeps his promises, makes me laugh, is always there for me, loves me, and is very cool. I can't believe my daughter said that about me, that she thinks her daddy is cool. I'm going to ask her again when she's 16 how she feels about that. My dad helps me with projects like social studies and science, and I help him with projects in return. I'm not exactly sure where that came in at, but he keeps his promises. Like when I ask him to pick me up early from daycare, sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He also makes me laugh so much that I laugh till I cry by tickling me or by making a funny face. Also, he's always there for me when I get hurt, like when I got stung by a bee for the first time. My daddy loves me so much that he would not take anything for me because that is how much he loves me. Now, here's the fun part of my daddy. He's very cool because he tries to rap. She hates it when I rap. She says, "Daddy, stop it." Secretly, she thought it was cool. Did you know that my daddy is the pastor of Cornerstone Family Church? Did you all know that? Well, it's funny how your child sees your job. Well, he has to water the plants to keep them healthy and make our church look nice. My daddy also has a lot of meetings with people and their problems with their life and their family. When it's time for lunch, he lets me choose. At the end of the day, we usually have races about who can get to the car first. He lets me win, LOL. So she finally caught on. Now she'll just catch on that I'm letting her beat me at checkers. Now I'll tell you about the way he looks. My daddy thinks that it's cool to wear hats, so he wears hats all the time. He also wears funky glasses that are black on the outside and yellow on the inside. My daddy is very tall, very, very tall. He is so tall that it would take two of me to be taller than him. He is 6'6". Also, he will never wear anything that has a skull on it because my family is a Christian family. I'm not exactly sure where that came from. Finally, this is my favorite part. My dad had his own band. His band was called SRB, which stands for Sweet Revelation Band. I don't know why he had to put band at the end of it, but he did. One of my cousins was even in it. They had crazy hair that went all the way down to their butts. All my dad's friends were in it, even my dad's roommate. So as you can see, that is why I chose my dad, Scott Catron, because he is my dad. He is a pastor of a church, the way he looks, and that he had his own band. Is your dad as cool as mine? Because I don't think so. I think that mine is the coolest dad in the whole world. Do you want to meet my dad? I gotta hold on to that one because there'll probably never be another one like that. And I hope that I'm wrong. But if you're not even a dad, just a parent here today, you can relate to something like that and finding out how your kid really feels about you. Because sometimes out here in this world, we don't really get that. And we think that our kids aren't that fond of us and that they're really not listening to us. And we really don't even want to know their opinion sometimes of us. But when they talk about us to their friends or they write something that they don't think that we'll ever see, by the way, I got her permission for this reluctantly. And we find out that, yes, it's true. We do have influence in our children's life. We have massive influence. And we mean more to our children than our children will ever let on. I'm at that halfway point, actually technically past in raising my daughter. She's 10, she'll be 11 in November, getting ready to go to 5th grade. And I realize that with every year that's tacked onto her life now, that everything is just radically changing in how I approach things with her and our dynamic together and the things that we can do together, the things we can't do together. The things that have already passed, those places in life, those mile markers where at 2 we could do this, at 4 we could do this, at 7 we could do this. But those times have come and they've gone and everything changes now. I'm in constant competition with media now. If I want daddy-daughter time, I have to take the iPad and hide it. And my wife hid the iPad on Friday because it was her last full day with my mom, and so she hid the iPad when we were leaving early that morning so that she would not find it and watch that all day instead of spending time with my mom. And things change, and I like it that my daughter this year thinks that I'm a cool dad, and I don't know if that's going to have longevity or not. I don't know. There's things about being a dad that have already moved on. We've passed those points, and I'm missing them. I'm missing those things so much. I gave Dan some pictures, and please excuse my narcissism today if it comes off that way, but I'm wanting you to relate. When you see pictures, my daddy pictures with my situations, I want you to put yourself in those shoes. Those of you that are dads that have moved past these stages also. I miss these days right here, where my daughter could lay on my chest and sleep. And it was hard unless I was tired to sleep with her on my chest, but it didn't matter. I could lay there as long as she wanted to sleep on my chest. I was perfectly fine, no complaints. And there was something so spiritual about that. And you dads know what I'm talking about. Your child sleeping on your chest. I miss days like this, where I could put her in a bathtub and have some fun and watch her splash. Now it's basically, Hannah, have you had your shower? No, get upstairs and take your shower. That's what it is now. And there was a moment I could do this. There was a season in time that we got to put her in the kitchen sink, give her the bath, and those days are gone now. I miss days like this, where when I held her, that her face was right there by my face. I miss that. It's just been in the past year that I officially told her I can't carry you anymore. Now, she'll still jump up there and want to sit on my hip. And I tell her, I say, baby, if you do this in public, do you know how weird this is going to look? She still wants to get in the buggy at Kroger's and Walmart. I said, do you see other 10-year-old children riding around in buggies? I think part of it is being an only child where she's not seeing a baby come up after her, but I miss that, and I tell her all the time, it's like, Hannah, of all the things that Daddy misses, I miss the days that I would hold you on my hip or hold you up in my arms, and your face and my face was side by side everywhere we went, everything we did together. It was a very powerful thing for me. I miss days like this, where I could kiss her anytime I wanted, and she couldn't do anything about it, even if she didn't like it. Clearly, she was not enjoying this. It doesn't matter. I got to do whatever I wanted to do. I miss those days. I miss days like this, where that's an Easter picture, where you see that little dress and that little hat. And these days aren't over yet. I bought that child. It's been my daddy thing every year for Easter. I get to go out, take her, and shop for her Easter dress and all the trimmings. I don't know how much longer I've got those days. I'm going to miss those days, and it's not going to be shopping for Easter dresses. It's going to be shopping for prom dresses, and then it's going to be shopping for bridal gowns. And I just suspect that what I want will not factor in that much. I miss these days when I could buy whatever I wanted and put it on her. She was cute as a bug. She had no opinion. I miss those days. I miss days like this. The little dance recitals. All those little things that you put your kids in, and it's about their first steps in learning to get on stages and in front of people and perform and try to search out their little tool chest and find out what kind of tools are in there, what kind of skill set is actually in there. And they would get up on a stage, and a lot of you all have had daughters that have been through this. They get on the stage and they do these little dances, and they're not impressive at all. But yet you're beaming and you're glowing and your heart is racing and your emotions are just mushy, and because that's your kid up there and she's on a stage and she's doing something, and you can't wait to pick her up afterwards and tell her how proud you are of them. And all they really did was just get up there. I miss days like this, where my daughter would kiss me because she wanted to and didn't even have to ask. Just pick her up and hold her. Next thing you know, out of your peripheral vision, you see that little face coming to the side of your face, just giving you a kiss for no reason at all. It's powerful and it's spiritual. And I don't know how much longer I have those days. I miss days like this. Projects, building a snowman together. A snowman named Steve. Don't know where that came from, but I have suspicions. Getting out and playing in the snow and sled riding and just doing those things that you know you have limited opportunity. I'm talking to you young dads now that have small children. It's a window. We don't have that much time. I don't know how much longer I have days like this. I still have some of these days left. But the window is closing. I miss days like this where we could dance together and she wasn't tall enough to dance on her feet and I would have to hold her. I have looked forward to every wedding where there was dancing afterwards because everyone was just a jewel. It was an opportunity that I knew it was going to get more and more and more limited, where my daughter would be willing to dance with me, and she couldn't even really dance with me standing on my feet anymore, too big for that. Got to pick her up and hold her, and now she's past that. In the last wedding where we danced just a few weeks ago, it's like, baby, this will be something new because I can't hold you this time. You're just going to have to stretch and I'm going to have to stoop. I miss those days. I miss these days already as the window is closing on our journey for life. And this will always be my wife and I's favorite picture, and it's just one of those pictures you don't plan. You're on a little hiking trip down at the lake at Pipestem, and your wife's walking behind you with a camera and takes a picture, and you go, why do you want to take a picture of our backside and stuff? And then you throw it aside, and then later on you look at it and you realize there was your picture of life, and you didn't even recognize it. Walking through life hand in hand with our children, enjoying it, having fun, teaching the joy of it all. But we only have a window to do it in. Thank you, Dan. A window. I tried to think of a dad this week that I could talk about from the Bible as a good example for Father's Day. I just wanted something short. I'm like you dads. I want to get out of here and go get treated. I want someone to cook for me for a change today, and I want to go on a hike with my family and probably go just do something simple that won't seem like that big a deal to anybody else, but to me it's going to be a very special day, and I want to get us out of here to do that. And so I was just thinking of a dad that I could talk about and throw a few pointers out. But just to be very honest with you, despite how we have glamorized the stories of the Bible, if you were here a couple weeks ago when we talked about the reality of the stories of the Bible and just how messed up almost everybody in the Bible is, it's hard to find a good dad in the Bible. David, a man after God's own heart, just a terrible father. He's got incest going on in his home right underneath his nose. He not even aware of it. He's got another son that's trying to steal his throne, and he's the last one to find out about that. He doesn't have his act together. And you go down the list, there's the great father of faith, Abraham, and all these guys like Isaac and Jacob, and you see the stuff going on and the deceit and the trickery and all the things going on in their homes, and just, it's like, where is an example? Where is a good example? And I'm thinking, you know what, Joseph would probably be a good example, but all I can do is speculate about Joseph. I mean, Jesus turned out pretty good. Joseph probably was a good dad as long as Jesus had him, but I don't know how long that was. And I thought of this man, because here's one man outside of one little drunken experience, and I'm thinking compared to my life, he's looking pretty good. It seems like this guy was a pretty solid guy, pretty solid dad. His name was Noah. And Noah was special in the earth because God saw him as righteous when the earth was filled with evil and corruption, the Bible says. And Noah stood out. Noah stood out. And I went back and I looked at that story this week, and you can just pull a few fragments, and you got to weave them together, and you got to read between the lines. You've got to insert it into culture and history of what you know is going on at the time. And you've got to come out then with this perfectly knit Afghan saying, here's a picture of Noah's life. But there's enough there to actually do that, I think. And I looked at Noah's life and I realized that Noah is the perfect person to talk about on Father's Day because he is the dad that covers all three primary areas that I believe dads are supposed to. And they're all right there. The only one in the Bible. These are the three areas that I looked at my own life this past week. I like to chart things in my life. I like to scribble things down. I have notebooks just full of stuff, and I like to write my thoughts down, and I like to write my goals down, my dreams and my vision. And I was writing earlier in the week, much earlier than I was thinking about today, and I was writing things about my goals for my life, for my daughter. Just in my little notebook here. Y'all have got a notebook, don't you? And boy, I've got a lot of text during church. These people should be here. And I was sitting on the back deck. It was an evening and birds were singing, the whole spiel. And I was reminiscing my life as a dad. I just began to jot down notes. I am dad. It's my job to teach my daughter that bad stuff happens. And it's not always somebody's fault. And when it is, justice shouldn't always be expected. Stuff that I think goes so contrary to today's culture in America, especially of the last 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, where we're becoming very, very socialistically driven in America, leveling the playing field, and everybody getting a trophy. It's not always somebody's fault when bad stuff happens, and justice shouldn't always be expected. It is my job to teach her that you don't get trophies in the real world unless you win. And winning is not a bad thing. She will learn that some people will be mean and even evil to her because they are just simply mean and evil people. But it doesn't mean she has to become mean and evil back to feel like she's balancing the scales. The quality of her life will be based on who she is, not who others around her are. I will also teach my daughter that if it goes beyond just hurt feelings and she is in physical danger, she is free to use whatever weapons are at her disposal to defend herself. I will also teach her how to use said weapons. I am dad, and my job is to prepare my daughter to know God, hear His voice, follow His call, and live a life worthy of His name. Everything she needs for life and godliness is my call for her life. I am dad, and this is just what dads do. I was holding myself accountable, looking ahead into Father's Day. Just what is my role? And as I was thinking about that, I began to look at Noah's life, and I thought, this is exactly what all Noah did. The first thing that I see that Noah did that dads do, he guarded his family. The Bible says very clearly that the days were evil and corrupt. And it's very interesting because when you read into the second portion of the story about Noah, he had 3 sons, and we always talk about Noah being saved because he was righteous, but when you look closer at the story, God saw the whole family as righteous. And He said that even though the world is filled with corruption and evil, I see you, Noah, and your family as righteous. And so that tells me that even though they were in a very evil and corrupt generation, society, culture, somehow Noah guarded his children from that. He didn't just say, go out and do whatever the other kids are doing, it's fine. When his boys came home and said, well, Dad, they're all doing it, evidently Noah put his foot down and said, well, that's fine for them, but that's not how we do it in our family. I don't know how often that his sons got mad at him. Just incessantly angry, and maybe even acted out on that to the point that where Noah had a few crushed days. But like I've told you all before as parents, there's worse things in life than your children being angry at you. There's worse things than even your children being so mad that they say, I hate you. There are worse things that can happen because it ain't even about you. Somehow Noah guarded his sons in an evil and corrupt time. We don't know how to compare today to that generation because we don't know how evil and corruption was playing out. We don't know what the temptations were. We don't know what was going on in the immoral categories, but I know how to play that out in my world. It's my job as a dad that I don't let my child watch just whatever she wants on TV, whatever she wants on her iPad. She just can't go anywhere she wants on the internet and look at whatever she wants. There are rules. There's rules with time limits. There's rules with material. My daughter can't just dress any way she wants. When Mommy said this past week it's time to buy Hannah a new bathing suit before we go to the beach because she's outgrown the others. And it's very interesting because everything that Hannah was pulling off the rack was kind of the extreme opposite of what I was pulling off the rack. I'm going to tell you right now who's going to win that. I am Dad. And it's my job to guard my daughter when she is too ignorant to understand what she has to be guarded from. And I can't get mad when little boys are playing her, trying to get only what little boys want from her, when I've done nothing to let my daughter do anything but advertise the goods and put it out there. For all you dads out there today, I ain't holding Mama accountable. I've told you before, the biggest problem with moms is they've never been men. So they don't know how men think. And so the things that moms say isn't that cute, dads look at and go, you're not wearing that. And then Mom, it's like, oh, she can wear that. There's nothing wrong with that. And dads are like, no, she shouldn't wear that. And now there's this big brouhaha, which Mom almost always wins because it's easier for Dad to say, fine, whatever. Dads, stand your ground. When Mama says, no, that's cute, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're a man, so you know how men think, you know how boys think, you stand your ground and you say, no, she is not wearing that. You stand your ground. If Mama gets mad, it ain't the worst thing that will happen. Your daughter as a baby bringing home your first grandchild, about 5 years premature, is a little harder to cope with than your wife getting mad at you. Stand your ground. Guard your children. Don't do that daddy thing where it's my wife's job to make sure what she's watching. I never expect my wife to be the one to guard my daughter. She does, and that's good that I got a great partner. It's my job. So I sit down with Hannah every once in a while. It's like, let's see the iPad. I want to see your history. Someday she'll learn how to get rid of her history. So far, she hasn't. I already told her up front. You go to Netflix, I got it all right there. I see everything you watch. So every once in a while, every week, let's go to Netflix. Let's see what you've been watching. Of course, I've already set up what she can watch. It's all cartoons and children's shows. But there's a couple cartoons we don't like, and we've told her, we don't want you watching these cartoons. And so there's this one she likes, and she snuck around and watched it, and her mama said, so have you been watching such and such cartoons? She said, no. I said, give me your iPad. I looked at it, and she'd been watching it. I said, guess what you don't get to watch for the next week? Not just that cartoon. No cartoons. iPad's gone for a week. You can't control yourself. Daddy will help. That's my job. I understand it goes on and on into dress styles and where our kids go, and we need to know where our children are going. We can do this without being overwhelming in our kids' life to where we're promoting wrath in them. My parents guarded our lives. I did not grow up hating my parents. I have no ill feelings towards my parents because when other kids were allowed to go do this, they said, no, they would say, we don't live that way in our family. I heard it a million times. We don't live that way in our family. Parents, dads, it's okay to say to your children, we don't live that way in our family. And if they throw a little fit, if they cry, if they try to manipulate you emotionally, let it go. Because 10 minutes later, it's all going to change anyway. Stop being controlled by the little people, big people. Noah clearly guarded his sons because the day they entered that ark, God said, you're all righteous, so I'm going to save you all. Second thing that Noah clearly did was he taught his sons life skills. He not only guarded them emotionally and spiritually in life, he taught them life skills. And I think he had plenty of time to do that. We don't know for sure. It was 120 years from the time that God said, you know what, it's an evil and corrupt earth, and we're going to do something about it. And he began to formulate the plan of how Noah was going to save anyone. But there's no proof that it took Noah 120 years to build the ark. But it is very, very safe to look at it, take the ages of everybody involved, crunch all the numbers, and somewhere between 20 and 40 years in there is how long it probably took them to build the ark. Now, I got a feeling that his sons learned a lot of life skills during that time. A lot of carpentry, a lot of math, a lot of engineering, just a whole lot of things they did not know before. And I have no doubt that it prepared them for life. It's a little different how we live today. We don't really take our children to work with us anymore. And Jesus was probably a carpenter, culturally speaking, because his dad was a carpenter. So actually, technically, in that culture, they were probably masons, actually. And so because Joseph was a mason, there's no doubt Jesus probably was too, because culturally, that's just the way it was. Fathers, sons, you just hand down those skills. And so it's still a norm in a lot of countries today. In our country, it's just not that way. And so most of you don't plan on taking your children to work with you and you're saying, here's what I want you to do the rest of your life, learn how to do this with me. And so we do it a little different in America. And so we take our children places and we pay other people to equip them with skills. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I pay someone every week to teach my daughter violin. I can't teach her violin. She's going to start guitar in September. She's going to start sax when school starts back. And I can't teach her any of those things. I can teach her piano. Technically speaking, I can teach her piano. Emotionally speaking, I cannot teach her piano. So someone else will do that someday. And I told her the other day, I said, baby, you're not going to be able to do it all. You know how this works. And we're going to lay it all out on the table. We're going to make a list of the things you want to do, the things I want you to do. I'm going to let you choose one. I'm going to let you choose one thing that you want to do, and Daddy gets to choose two. I choose two, you choose one. I choose guitar and violin. Now, you got to think about, what do you choose? You know, do you want to play, and I mean all at one time. Spaced out, there will be many other things. I'm just talking about all at one time. So I said, when school starts, you got to figure out, you know, do you want to play basketball? What do you want to do? You know, do you want to go back to dance? You know, do you want to do gymnastics? What do you want to do? But for me, I try to push her into things that prepares her for life. And I've told her, I said, baby, I want you to play basketball. I played basketball my whole life. I love basketball. But basketball, yes, you learn some things about teamship and working together. Of course, you learn all kinds of things from sports. But it's still not directly that thing that you will carry with you through life. Like when you learn to play a musical instrument, for example. And so I try to push her into those realms of academics and the arts, those areas that I know that she can carry them as life skills. And I don't want to be overwhelming to her in those things. I try to really check myself and make sure that I'm just not trying to live my life through my daughter. I really try to monitor that the best I can. But at the same time, I can't risk I can't worry about offending her. I can't worry about, as a child, if she's going to be able to process what I'm trying to do right now. My mom clearly did not seem to care about how I felt when every day, as soon as I got off the bus, she said, get in there on the piano. They set the alarm clock on the piano for 1 solid hour every day as soon as I got off the school bus before I ever got to go do my chores. It's like, okay, play the piano, do chores. You know, what kind of options are these for a kid? I did not grow up bitter. I look back and I tell my mom, thank you for making me do that. Playing the piano was one of the richest parts of my life. And it has had a ripple effect into so many other areas. And I look back at my history book, and some of my most wonderful memories are directly related to things that my parents made me do that I didn't want to do. My dad would say, son, come on, we're going to go repair the barn, or come on, we're going to go build a barn, or we're going to do this, all this stuff on the farm, and I did not want to do any of it. My dad never gave me a vote. He said, come on, we're going to do this. And so by the time that we three sons, graduated high school, we all knew almost everything you needed to know about mechanics and about construction and about planting things and harvesting things and killing things and cleaning things, gutting things. Man, we learned how to do all those things, and my dad never sat us down and said, would you like to help me with this? What do you think about this? Ponder this for a few days and see if this is something you'd be interested in. It didn't work that way, but that's how it seems to be working nowadays. We're giving our children adult voices in our family. We're giving them adult votes, and they're not capable of that because they don't want to do any of the things that you know are going to be good for them. Noah taught his sons life skills, and there's no doubt because there's no way that Noah built that incredible yacht by himself. There was 4 people involved, Noah and 3 sons, and Mama keeping the iced tea coming. Noah guarded his family. He taught them life skills, and the last thing that Noah clearly did that is so huge, he modeled his faith for his children. I want you to bring your kids to church so we can teach them all about Jesus, but I want you to know their faith is going to mostly hinge on the faith that you model for them. My daughter will grow up to be a worshiper, and I'll tell you why. It's not going to be because I'm going to show her scriptures in the Bible that says you should worship God. She's going to be a worshiper because she's going to see my model. I tell her all the time, it's like, baby, when you're in here and you're not out leading worship with the kids, I want you right here. You need to watch Daddy play the piano. You need to watch Daddy sing. I'm never aware that she's there, by the way. I'm in my own little world, and so I have to talk to her about it ahead of time. I say, I want you there. I want you up close where there's no distractions. I want you to be there. And I'll say, Hannah, do you understand what's going on when we're not singing the songs on the wall anymore and we're just singing out new song and Daddy's just like making stuff up? Are you aware of that? And she said, yeah, Daddy. I said, yeah, it's called new song and this is what it all means and this is where it's coming from and I want you to feel comfortable doing stuff like that. I want her to be where the action's at. I'm not going to make her go into ministry. I'm not going to make her be a worship leader. I can't make her do anything. But what I can do is equip her so that she will have options. So that if God does call her later on in life and she hears that call, it's like, Hannah, I want you to come into ministry in these areas. Well, she can because she's been equipped. See, God couldn't call me to do the things that I did if I would not have been equipped. You can't be a piano player if you never learned to play the piano. You can't lead worship if you've never been in the influence of growing up in music and being in family quartets and all that stuff that you didn't really like at the time, but you have to equip your kids. You have to teach little boys how to build things, how to fix things. You have to teach little girls how to do so many things that in a normal world, a normal culture, still are not to be seen as gender bias, just reality. Little girls need to learn how to cook. They need to learn how to do things that God created women to know how to do and to want to do that adds to the family dynamic. Everyone brings their pieces, and no piece is greater than the other. They're just different. Noah modeled his faith, and for upwards of 40 years, Noah's sons watched their daddy build a boat in the middle of the desert, preparing for a flood. And by the way, what is a flood? They'd never seen a boat. They'd never seen it rain at this point in history. Springs were coming up from the ground, watering the earth. It had not rained from the sky yet. They didn't know what a flood was. They had never built anything like this. All these boys knew was that their daddy said, God told me this. That's all they had to go by. And for 40 years, they're out there and they're working with their daddy, building this boat. And all they know is that their daddy has great faith in God, such faith in God that they're going to build this boat. And the world's going to be destroyed, but we're going to be saved because God told me we're going to be okay. And I grew up with that kind of faith, and some of you grew up seeing that kind of model. And I'm sorry for those of you that did not see that model, but I watched my dad. That no matter what happened, my dad always said, son, it's going to be okay. God's got this. And I would see him lay hands on sick cows, prayed for our dogs. Anyone that was sick, we didn't run to the emergency room every time somebody sneezed in the days I grew up. You did not go to the hospital unless there was a limb dangling. You just didn't go. I've got 2 scars right here on my leg, and Hannah still will ask me once in a while, Daddy, tell me what happened there again. Chainsaw, man. standing stupidly on a brush pile, probably 15 years old, my dad teaching me life skills. And I'm unbalanced, and I'm rocking on this thing, and I'm cutting, and I lose my balance, and I go, whoa! And so, you regain your balance by tipping back up, and you're a kid, you're not all there, and you forgot to take your finger off the trigger, and the chainsaw's still going, and you come down, it's like, but it's okay, because you just stopped it, and you buried it into your leg, and it's like, yow! And you react, and you come back again, and you lose your balance, and you react again, and you come back, and 1 inch below the first place, you bury it in again. And blood's like pss, 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 out of 2 little places, and my brother and my dad's there, and my dad grabs me and puts me on the John Deere tractor and says, come on, son, and they tie a rag around and get home, and Mom pulls it off, and blood's squirting out, and she says, yeah, that ain't good. And I called my sister. She lived up the road. She was a nurse, and she come running down there. We didn't have the little steri strips and all that kind of stuff. We just had Band-Aids and duct tape. And so my mom, she's there, and my sister says, all right, you squeeze them together, and I'll put some Band-Aids over them and hold them together. But it was all worth it, because to calm me down, they gave me some Coke. We never got to drink soda pop hardly when I was a kid. It's like, we've got a Coke here just in case of emergencies. It's your treat if you ever get hurt. It's like it was worth almost losing your leg to get a Coke. And I'm sipping on that Coke, man, just nursing that, and they're down here, and it didn't hurt. It severed all the nerves, so I really didn't feel anything. And they just taped it all up together and said, all right, y'all go out and play and be more careful. I mean, I don't know how many stitches I'd have had if we went to the ER. Dads guard their families. They teach them life skills, and they model their faith. I will finish with a great statement that we don't know much about his life as a father, but he clearly was a great, great man. One of the greatest in the Bible. One of the only people in the Bible that there's really nothing negative ever said about his life. His name was Joshua. And Joshua had crossed over into Canaan, the land of promise. And they did what God had been asking his people to do for a generation. Just go take the land. Just go. I've got something better for you. Just go there. He went, he believed, even as one of the spies, he believed that it could be done, and he said it could be done. Now Noah's dead. God puts Joshua in his place. Joshua, immediately, they cross the river. They start taking the land. Province by province, they destroy enemies, and they take the land. And now the land has been taken, and Canaan officially belongs to the people of God. And now Joshua is divvying up land. He's telling people, you can go live here and you can go live there. And he's giving them advice now, because now they have settled into the land. They're going to occupy. And he's giving them some advice for their families and for their lives before they just go on now and start making their farms and their gardens and building their houses. And he begins to talk to them about spiritual things. And he makes one of the great statements of the Bible. He says, the land is full of idols, he said. There's still false religions all through this land that we're occupying. He says, so if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your forefathers served beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. We will. I grew up in a home where I had no vote in that. My parents never asked me, do you want to go to church? The understanding was, if you live in this house, you go where we go, you stay where we stay, you eat what we eat. There were no chicken nuggets in those days, and the macaroni and cheese was not Kraft. So we grew up eating vegetables and eating fruit and eating all the meats, even the wild critters. We had no choice. Our parents helped us understand this concept. My dad would say, as for me and my house, we will go to church. And my dad told me in my late teenage years, when I was starting to go out and do things that was not good, he would say, son, You can go and you can party all night long Saturday night. You can come home drunk as a skunk. All I got to say to you is at 9:30, this family is leaving for church on Sunday morning. You better be in the car or you better be packing your bags. Now, you may think that's harsh. I want you to know I am not in a prison or a mental institution today. I am not a mass murderer. I'm a pastor. I think my dad did pretty good. Now the question for us is, we must contend with, but times have changed. And my response is, have they? Or is that just what we think? The Bible says, cast down imaginations and all these things we've exalted above the knowledge of God. What's the knowledge of God for the family? That the father is the patriarch. The family is established by what the father says. The father says, this is our faith in God, and we will serve Him in this household. And we will get up and we will go to church, and I will teach you how to serve. I will teach you how to give. I will teach you how to worship. I will teach you how to pray. I will teach you what the Bible means. I will teach you how to have a walk with God. I will raise you in the house of God and teach you how to have covenant with Him. From the day we dedicate you as a baby till I give you away to some other man or woman to spend your life with, you're my responsibility. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I want all the dads to stand with me today. In fact, all you dads, come and gather around the front here. And yeah, I'm going to single a few of you out in just a second after I pray for you. I told you. It's going to be a sweet experience for some dads here today. Multiple times I've been asked by fellow pastor friends in this community, they've said, how come Cornerstone Family Church seems to be successful, especially as a non-denominational church in a very traditional area? And they say, they offer their opinion then before I can even respond, and it's usually very superficial things. Always at the music. Yeah, that's why we're so strong, is because of our music. We're spiritually strong because we play rock and roll. Are you getting this? Well, it's because y'all have a relaxed dress code. Y'all don't make people dress up. It's like, no, we don't make them dress down or dress up. They can just come as they are. As long as they're not naked, we don't really care. So when they finally stop talking and let me answer their question, I tell them, I say, you know why Cornerstone stands out? Because Cornerstone Family Church has a lot of men, strong men. And you don't see that in the Appalachian Mountains. I love women. Thank God for women. The church exists today because women carried the torch when guys threw it down. Everybody has their role, and it's all equal in worth. You'll never take the place of women in their role, but I want you to know women will never take your place. Not in the body of Christ. You are the patriarchs of your family, and you're supposed to be the patriarchs of the local church. A church will only be as spiritually strong as the men that are in it. Men that worship and are not ashamed to do so. Men that pray and aren't ashamed to do so. Children that grow up knowing how to pray because they've heard their dads pray. I was thinking about this morning in the room we call our great room. It's off at the back of the house, and it's the biggest room, and it's my room. And every Sunday morning, it's where God and I have a powwow about what I think He wants to do here in just a couple hours. And my parents got to share that house with us for a few years before my dad passed away. And I was thinking this morning, every single morning, every morning, not every Sunday morning, every morning I woke up early, hearing my dad's voice faintly echo through the house as he was in that same room, pacing, walking back and forth, talking with God. My dad was a prayer warrior. And I get to bask in the ripple effect of that. He taught me how to pray. He taught me the importance of going to church. He taught me the importance of a man being like David and being emotionally open to a love affair with God. It's okay. It's not feminine. David was a man after God's own heart, which meant that David stood out in the crowd because while everybody else was serving God very religiously, David was very emotionally attached to God. It's not our wives' job to teach us that, teach our children that. It's our job. It's our job. And I want to pray for you this morning because our job is difficult sometimes. Because sometimes we look at our children and we have 3 options and all 3 options suck. And we take the one that sucks the least and we stand our ground no matter who is saying what. We stand our ground and we say, this is the choice I've had to make because dads have to make choices. And our children are not capable of making a lot of those choices. So we're going to do it for them because we're dad. That's what we do. And I'm going to tell you right now, your kids will not grow up hating you. If you will love them to the same measure that you discipline them, if you will love them to the same measure or more that you're making the choices that they don't want for their life, I'm telling you, your kids will be fine and they will love you and they will look back at you as being the greatest dad they could have possibly ever had. Don't you stand in fear of how your children feel because you're making decisions for them that go against their grain. That's why you're dad. We do that. We lead troops into battle. We slay giants. We can make our kids eat their peas. We can do it. I thank you for these men, Lord. Manly men. I know these men, Lord. I know many of these men very personally, Lord. I've watched them and just the strengths that they have and strengths as men, strengths as fathers and strengths as husbands. And I've watched them, Lord, make hard decisions in their homes and just, I am impressed with these guys. Lord, one of the reasons that pastoring this church is such an incredible pleasure for me is because of the camaraderie of the men in this church. This is an anomaly for our area, Lord. This has never even been seen in our area before. It's starting to happen in other places now, Lord, in other churches around here. But, Lord, this place was an anomaly for years. There's just not a lot of men here and a lot of dads here. These are men who lead. They lead by example. And today, Lord, our simple prayer is that your Holy Spirit just kind of pop up in their life in a very special way today and just encourage them. Build them up, Lord. May they feel you pat them on the back today. Let them hear your voice saying, good job. I know they're not perfect, Lord. I am not a perfect dad, not even close. But, Lord, I know I'm a good dad. And these guys here, I know they're not perfect, and they've made a lot of mistakes, and they wish they could throw it in reverse just like me, but they're still good dads. And we're getting more right than we're getting wrong. And I pray that you will comfort some of these dads today, letting them know that yes, they wish they could do some things different. We all do. But they've done more right than wrong. And you can work with that. And Father, for those whose kids have already grown up and moved away and they're out on their own, remind us, Lord, that our job's not done. Our position has changed. Our influence has changed. But we'll always be dad. We will always be dad. There's something very special about that. I thank you for these fathers. And today, Lord, in your name, I bless them. I bless them. I bless them. Give these dads a big hand. Now, this is going to really, really test you because I don't know how many of you guys ever read your bulletin. Did anybody here get a bulletin today? What's a bulletin? It's those things they... Did any of you guys get a bulletin in your family that you happened to notice that when you opened it and looked at it that there was a sweet frog sticker on it? If you have one of those bulletins in your possession or your family's possession, come up here with me. Because if not, I'm going to be enjoying sweet frogs this summer. Oh, they're all going back. Hey, honey, could you look at that? Yeah, maybe you should bring those up here as proof, huh? Wives, if you have your bulletin and you want to look at it and see if there's a sticker in it for your husband, or if you've got one and you don't have a dad with you today or father, and you want to run up here and just bless one of these guys and say, oh, here's your bulletin you dropped. Come on up here, man. Oh, Griffey. Miss Froggy. Are you going to do something before we leave here? Is there something I don't know about you? Why are you up here with the dads? I mean, I could see you as a mom. I have this vision of you in a girly frog outfit for some reason. Sorry, Griffey, your secret's safe with me. I won't tell anybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have fun at Sweet Frogs. It's just enough for you, not your family. It's not for your family. It's for you. Bless you guys, and we'll see if maybe some of those teaching today has those other ones. I love you guys. Bless you. Enjoy your day, dads. Go in peace.